How are you? Is that you, Dia?
I am Dia.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay.
Jana. And the other one is Jerry.
Okay, great. Yeah, so nice to meet you all. So make sure that our internet connection remains stable, and I'm actually going to be sharing my screen for the majority of the training. Why don't we just not do the video sharing, at least in this session?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to stop my video. I'll share my screen. Okay. So I'll give you, we have a few minutes before we start, so I'll give you a few extra minutes to get ready, get your notes out and whatnot. So. Okay, so it's our starting time. So hello, everyone. My name is Leonard Parker. I will be your instructor during this course. This is our first lesson. This course is scheduled to go 10 weeks, so about 2.5 months. I'm based in the U.S. I'm based in Houston. So just a bit about me. Again, I'm based in Houston, Texas, in the U.S. Been doing digital marketing, specifically SEO, for the last 7 years or so. Most of that time has been with SEO, but I also have experience with social media marketing, paid advertising, email marketing, and content marketing, which all in some way overlap with SEO. And I've worked with clients in a variety of industries, including financial services, technology, law, healthcare, industrial supply, and food and beverage. And the name of my company, my agency, is Destiny Marketing Solutions. And not to pat myself on the back here, but just some of the brands that I've worked with. And I'm sharing this for one reason. With that experience, I have made many mistakes along the way. And I've been able to learn from those mistakes, and it's made me a better SEO today, speaking to you all. Now, my goals for this course, fairly simple. I want you all to establish a thorough understanding of SEO. Really understand kind of not what to do, but why you're doing it. You'll see as we go through the course and you kind of do some research outside of this course, 80% of SEO and SEO professionals can agree on 80% of what to do. It's that remaining 20% where your knowledge, your experience really comes into play. And that's where you have your own approach to certain aspects of SEO. Now, I want to help you all get to that 20% where maybe you don't know exactly what to do, but you have your own approach for doing something. And that's really important to understand. Oh, and that's why it's important to understand why you're doing something. Learning through action, that's a big goal of this course. SEO is a hands-on activity. So really the best way that you're going to get the most out of this course is take what you're learning during this hour and a half, and really use it on your own projects, on your own websites. That's really where you're going to be able to pick these concepts up faster. I want you to become more strategic marketers. I understand you all work with Interrupt Media, and you're doing marketing development programs for technology companies. And now understanding SEO, understanding your client avatar, and some of these other concepts we will go over will really help you become a better marketer. SEO, it kind of is interwoven with other types of marketing online. So becoming a better SEO, having that knowledge would definitely help you as an overall marketing strategist. And then I want to learn from you. I understand you all are based in the Philippines, and one thing I've learned about SEO is that SEO for Houston or San Francisco, some of the strategies might be very different for the Philippines. So if you think some of the things that we're going over, there might be some extra intricacies dealing with your local market, I'm happy to hear them. And that would be a great learning opportunity for all of us. And then lastly, it's not listed here, but I know that it's nighttime for you all. So my promise, or I'm not going to promise this, but I'm going to strive to have these sessions within 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. That way you can leave your office safely and get home at a respectable hour. So that's my goal with each session. Now, my expectations of you: come each week with energy. The more energetic, the more excited you are to learn, the funner this course is going to be for everyone. So again, I know it's the evening. You all have already completed your workday. So you have to drink a coffee, have to do some push-ups, have to run a lap around the office. Please do so if that's what it takes. Participate in a Slack thread. And I'll go over that a bit later towards the end of this session. But we're going to be using Slack for our communication in between each session. So your participation there will really kind of help drive discussion and help me make sure that I'm giving you the information that you need. Number 3, complete the homework assignments in a timely manner. So after each session, you will be given homework assignments, and those homework assignments, those tasks are there to help you better understand what we went over during that session. So make sure that you're completing those in a timely manner by the next session. And if you do have any questions, you can ask them during that week or so. Number 4, keep an open mind and focus on growth, not perfection. SEO, as with anything, it's going to be a learning curve. So make sure that you understand why you're doing the concepts, but you're not going to get everything perfect right away. So don't be too worried about perfection. And then number 5, make time for enrichment outside of this course. So I'm going to do my best to give you the meat of the content that you will need to become better SEOs, but you definitely should make schedule time outside of these courses to read extra articles, and I'll share with you some different thought leaders who would be good sources for content. But make sure that you're sharing that you're making time for that enrichment outside the course. Now, before we really dive into session 1, this is our first call, and I would like to know who all do we have here. So I want everyone to just go around, share their name, their job role with Interrupt, experience with SEO, if any, and what are you looking to gain from this course? And while you all are talking, I will be writing and taking notes. So, Dia, would you like to start?
Yes. My name is Thea, and I lead the team here in the Philippines.
Okay. I'm not sure. Are you all talking? I can barely hear you all. So.
Yes.
Can you maybe talk up a little louder?
Yes, my name is Thea,
Okay. Idea.
and I lead the team here in the Philippines.
Okay.
And the next one is Joy.
Is that Joy? Joy?
Yes, Joy. She's
Okay.
married, and she is Jonah.
How do you
This
spell
is
that? I'm sorry. How do you spell the young lady after Joy?
Jonah.
Jonah. Okay. Great.
And this is Jana.
Okay. Hi.
Do you want me to spell it out?
Yes,
Also,
please.
it's Janna.
N-N-A. Jana. Okay. Pleasure to meet you, Jana. And who do we have here on the right?
And this is Jared.
Okay.
They are all researchers.
Can you say that one more time? Jared?
Jarek, yes. Jerick.
Jarek. Okay. Okay. So we have Dia, Joy, Jonah, Jana, and Jarek.
They're all
Yeah, it's up you. So does anyone have any experience with SEO, or are we all brand new? Brand new? Okay. Good to know. Okay. And like, what are some of the things you're looking for from this course? Could be anything.
Actually, we have not worked with any project that includes SEO.
Okay.
We don't really know anything about SEO, honestly.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Okay. So thank you for that. Let's keep going. So the course syllabus, so this is week 1. It's just going to be an introduction to SEO, so really going over some basic topics. Week 2 and week 3, we're really going to focus on what's called On Page SEO and Technical SEO. And just so you know, SEO can, at its core element, can be broken down into 3 categories: On Page SEO, Technical SEO, and Off Page SEO. And off-page SEO, that's commonly called link building. So weeks 2 and 3, we're going to focus on the two of those elements, on-page and technical. For weeks 4 and 5, we're going to focus on link building, so off-page SEO. Week 6, we're going to do a deep dive into content, so content marketing, like blogging and adding content to your website. Week 7, we're going to go over competitor analysis. So how you can take what your competitors are doing or other websites are doing and kind of borrow some ideas and apply those to your websites. Week 8, we're going to talk about social media and how social media overlaps with SEO and how they influence each other. And then number 9, and it's very important, we're going to talk about measuring the results. So how do you know if your SEO campaign is working? And if it's not working, what you can do to kind of correct course. And just so you know, SEO it's called a long-term game. So the things that you're doing now for a website, if you were to start optimization today, you might not see the impact of that for several months. But once you have made those optimizations and you are getting the website rankings that you're looking for, you're going to have a long-term benefit. So just keep that in mind. It's not like social media or paid advertising where you see the results right away. And so I think that's very important to know for week 9. And then for week 10, we're just going to do a week course review. So pretty much just go over all of the content that we went through the previous 9 weeks. And so for today, this is the introduction. So some of the topics we're going to be talk about are search engine basics. So your search engine, I'm going to be referring to Google and most of these examples, but a lot of these things also apply for Bing, Yahoo, and any other search engines that you may use. We're going to go a bit over technical SEO. Also, we're going to go over on-page SEO. Number 4, we're going to take a look at some tools you can use to really kind of get a feel for what's out there. And then number 5, we're going to go over the homework assignments. And then not included here, but there are also some housekeeping things I want to make sure we're all on the same page with. So is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. So search engine basics. So at its core element, a search engine is a way for you to find what you're looking for online. You type in a search query. I'm sure you all have used Google. You type in a search query to Google, and then Google returns information and websites that it thinks matches your query. So when we're looking at your website in the grand scheme of things, you can look at it as this. So your website, it's composed of multiple pages. So you have a About Us page, a Contact Us page, a Services page, and so forth. And on top of, so each of those pages, if we were to compare those to a house, each of the pages on your website would be one room in your house. So this little image right here is a room in your house. So just pretend it's a room in your house. Now, when you put enough of those rooms together, you have a fully built house. And that fully built house online is your website. That's your fully built house. Now, if you have several of these houses in your neighborhood, so you can just think of this as your neighborhood, if you have several of these houses in your neighborhood, then you have what are called links. And these links are really what makes up the search engine and the online world. So these roads here, these are considered links. So they connect one house to another house in that neighborhood. And links are a very important part of how a search engine works. And it's how someone goes from website to website. So at its simplest form, Google is simply a website, and it links out to pretty much every website out there in the world. And so that's just one way to think about it. And I think that's a very important building block to help you understand what is SEO. Now, Google and all the search engines, the way they figure out how to rank a website, and so when I mean rank a website, I'm meaning when you search a query on Google, you know that there are certain websites and they're ranked a certain way. And so the way that Google reviews your website is through a process called crawling. And it uses special programs, special computers called spiders to crawl websites. And when a spider crawls a website, it's looking at different elements, and we're going to go over some of those elements today to figure out, okay, this website, how can it be best optimized, or how well is it optimized for this search query? And depending on the optimization, that's the way it's going to be ranked in Google and other search engines. And so once Google crawls your website, it's going to do what's called index your website, basically meaning it's going to add you to the Google directory of websites out there. So before we go any further, does anyone have any questions on that part? No? Okay. So for the search engine basics, SERP, that's just a short form for search engine result page. So it's simply when you Google a query, it's that resulting page with all of the search results. And there are many types of different layouts for that results page. And for the purposes of this session, we're going to only go over 5 of those, because those are the most common. But you have featured snippets, you have Google shopping results if you're looking for a product, you have site links, image packs, in-depth article widgets, knowledge cards, knowledge panel, local pack, news box, related questions, tweets, and videos. And basically, these are the different elements that you can see on a search engine results page. And the elements that are highlighted in blue, those are the features that we're going to go over today. Now, one that's not highlighted but is actually growing in popularity is called the image pack. And this is basically where you do a Google search for something, and instead of a website, there's a list of images that show up at the top of the page. And that's really what an image pack is. And those, like I mentioned, those are really growing in popularity, but we won't be going over those today. So a feature snippet. So feature snippet is simply when you Google something. So in this example, I've Googled how to budget money. And you've probably seen this before. Instead of a website, it actually has this feature box where it actually tries to answer the question before you even go to a website. So the search query again is how to budget money. And you can see here, it shows this step-by-step guide to money saving habits can help you develop a realistic savings plan. And then just the tips on how to budget your money with a link back to the website. So this featured snippet, this feature is very common, especially when you're trying to search for how to do something. So you also can have site links and a knowledge panel. So on the left-hand side here, this is an example of a site links search result. And you can see here, I'm actually looking at the Interrupt Media website. And you can see here, you probably see this too on your end. When you Google Interrupt Media, it'll actually show the different pages on their website, or the main pages on their website, and will link to them directly. And so that's just one way that a search result can show up. And then here on the right-hand side, this is actually one of my brands, and this is called the Knowledge Panel. And you can see here it has my logo, it has images, it has my location on a map, and then it also has my my company's contact information, so my address, my phone number, and then my hours of operation. So that's known as the Knowledge Panel. And another example is it's called the Local Pack. And so this actually is something you would have to Google on your end because it's very location based. So let's say if I was looking for, in this example, I'm using wealth management. But let's say I was looking for an accountant, and I type in Houston accountant, it'll come up with different search results, and it'll show their location on a map. Now, if you were to, which city are you all in the Philippines?
Silay City.
Can you spell that?
S, Sierra, India, Lima, Alpha, Yankee.
Okay. So let's say you were to Google your city, but then also add accountant to that. You would actually get a completely different set of search results here based on your location. Because if you were looking for an accountant, there's no reason why you would want to work with someone in Houston. So these results are actually vary based on where you are. But you can see here the different search results. You can actually see them on the map. You can see their contact information and so forth. So very important when you're looking to get customers and website visitors from your local area. So the next type of SERP feature is called a video. So this is simply when a video shows up in a search result. So this search was the anatomy of a search result, search engine basics. And you can see here, instead of just a regular website and then a meta description, which we'll get into later, there's actually a video, and this is directly pulling from YouTube. So if you have a YouTube video, it's a great way to get more visibility for that video by being included in a search result like this. With that said, YouTube videos are very important for SEO. Any project that you're working on, if there's an opportunity to use videos, definitely take advantage and make sure that those videos are uploaded to YouTube. So any questions there before we move on? No? Okay. So those are just some of the search engine basics, and just some of the different ways you can see search results in using Google. Now next I'm going to focus on technical and on-page SEO. And first I'll start with technical SEO. So there are several areas that you should look for when looking at a website's technical SEO. So the first is site security protocol. Robots.txt and sitemaps would be your second thing. URLs and URL structure would be the third area that you want to look at. Duplicated content, structured data, site speed and performance, and mobile first indexing. And for this section, I'm going to be going back and forth between this presentation and doing a demo. So just bear with me because I'm not a Zoom expert. So the first thing, site security protocol. And before I get started, the technical SEO, some of these things can get really technical. So, what I want you all to focus on is knowing that these things exist. And, some of these things, to fix them or to set them up might require someone who has experience with website development. But the important thing here is to know what to look for. And if it is an issue, make sure you're able to communicate that with a website developer or designer on your team. Now, site security protocol. So this is simply this is called SSL, Secure Sockets and Layer. That's what that abbreviation stands for. And this is basically an extra layer of security and privacy on your website that prevents hackers from hijacking your website and stealing your users' information. So very important for security purposes, not only for your website, your business, but also for your users. And recently is actually a signal that Google uses to rank their websites. So pretty much if you have this installed, then you're good to go. If not, then it can hurt you in your Google rankings. And so you see here on the left-hand side, I have, this is an SSL secured website. So you'll see it'll have this little secure icon in green. And then one easy way to know, it'll have the HTTPS abbreviation at the beginning of the website URL. So that's a real quick way you can check. Now, if it doesn't have SSL installed, you'll actually see a not secure message. So very important that if you do see this with your website, check Interrupt Media. You're actually using SSL, so you're good to go. But for any websites that you're working on, you want to make sure that this is installed because it can help your rankings. And to install that SSL, typically you would just call your web hosting company and make sure, just tell them that, hey, I own this domain name, yourdomain.com, and then tell them that you would like to add the SSL certificate. Usually they can set this up for you within a few hours, it may even be shorter than that. So any questions on that point? Okay. So moving on, so robots.txt and sitemaps. So we're really going to go deeper into this during weeks 2 and 3. So just kind of glancing over it right now, a robots.txt file, it gives Google information on how to crawl your website. So remember earlier when we were talking about spiders and these special programs that crawl your website. So your robots.txt file is basically going to give those crawlers information, instructions on how to crawl your site. So you're going to see cases where there might be certain pages on your website that you don't want to have available to the public. So these might be pages where you have private information, or maybe even your admin information. You don't want those to be found on Google from someone just doing a Google search result. So what you're going to do is in these robots.txt file, you're going to simply say block this particular page from being crawled. And that way that information won't be available to the public. So that's where you would use a robots.txt file. A sitemap is very related to your robots.txt file. And your sitemap pretty much is a map of your website. So a good sitemap is going to include all of the pages, all of the URLs on your website. And you want to make sure that once you have your website live, this is something that you want to check regularly to make sure that all of your web pages are being included in that sitemap. Just like, you know, if you were to do a map of your city, and every road should be there in that map. It's the same with your sitemap. So you want to make sure that that's in order. Now, the tool to manage these is called Google Search Console. So I'm not sure if that's something that Interrupt Media has installed, but definitely something that you want to install if it's not there. And this is where you will manage these two reports. So Robots.txt and Sitemap, those are managed using Google Search Console. Any questions on that part? Okay. I'll keep on going. So URLs, so simply URL, that is this here. So why don't we just go to Interrupt's website. So this is simply the https interruptmedia.com. That would be the URL for your homepage. So pretty simple there. Now going back to the presentation here. So just some URL best practices. Don't make them too long. So leave out filler words. So let's say I know one of your focuses for your company is marketing automation. So for that URL for that web page, just make it interruptmedia.com/marketing-automation. And that would be good enough. Avoid using numbers in your URLs, just not really good practice. And avoid using underscores or special characters. So pretty much special characters, anything, any punctuation marks, any like dollar signs, percentage signs, ampersands, asterisks, parentheses. You don't want to use those in your URL. You want to keep them very readable and short and simple. If you have multiple words in your URL, you want to separate those with hyphens. So kind of going back to Interrupt Media, if we were to go to, let's go to the services page. Let's see if we can, actually blog page might be better. So great job here, whoever built this URL. So each, as you can see here, each word is separated by a hyphen, and I'll zoom in, make sure you all can see. Oh, it doesn't zoom in on that part. Okay, so each word is separated by a hyphen, but one thing, remember, we don't want any numbers in the URL. So this is something that instead of a number 5, you actually want to spell out 5. So just something to keep in mind there for your URLs. And then lastly, each page on your website should have its own URL. So there shouldn't be any 2 pages on your website that use the same URL. It's just not a good idea. And most web platforms like WordPress, they won't allow you to do this anyway. So, but just keep in mind if you're ever looking at that manually. Now, duplicate content and canonical tags. So first, duplicate content. So since everyone's new to SEO, you might not notice, but a big rule in SEO is that you never want to duplicate content on multiple pages. So let's say, for example, with the LinkedIn article, the LinkedIn blog article that we just reviewed, you don't want to take that content and copy it and paste it on another page on the Interrupt site, or copy and paste it on another website. It's just a good rule to follow. There's something called a Google penalty where if you do something against Google's guidelines, then they will penalize your website. Either they'll push you down in the rankings, or if they don't push you down, they'll make sure that your site is not listed on Google at all. So very important that you avoid those penalties. There is a myth that duplicate content does attract a penalty from Google. That's not the case, but it becomes very difficult to rank your website when there's duplicate content. So I think that's obvious what's considered duplicate content or not. But what might not be so obvious is that you can have different versions of your website out there. So you can see here, these are different bullet points, but these are all different versions of the same website. So for the first example, we have https://2// with the www dot in front. For the second example, it's the same except we don't have the www dot. And then for the third example, we're missing this protocol part. And then even for the fourth example, we're missing everything before yoursite.com. So these are all the same website. They will take you to the same page, but in terms of duplicate content, if you don't have this set up properly where you're using your main site, https :// then / as your main website, your parent website, then Google and other search engines are going to look at these different websites as duplicate content. So you want to make sure you avoid that. And the way you do that is with something called a canonical tag. And this is basically a certain tag in the HTML that you would add to your site. And basically what it tells Google and other search engines is, hey Google, I know I have different versions of my website there, but this should be the reference version. So any other website, any other content, any other website that uses this content, it should all refer back to this original content. And so the way to figure out which of these versions you should use is to just do a simple Google search. So kind of going back to the interrupt media example, if we just did a search for interrupt media, you want to see which version is showing up and which version is being indexed or added to Google's directory. So you can see here, I'll zoom in a bit so everyone can see. So the parent version of the interrupt media website would be the version without the www in front. So that's the version where you should add the canonical tag. You can see here, this is the LinkedIn page. So it's a completely different website, but you can see for LinkedIn, the parent version is www. It includes that piece to it. So going back to the presentation. So this is just an example of what that canonical tag looks like. So it's fairly simple. So you would just add this little snippet, and then ahref, and then equals, and whatever that parent version of your website, you would add that as the URL. So this is a very popular website in the SEO space called Moz.com. So actually it's going to be one of the websites I want you all to subscribe to, because they put out very good detailed information that will really help enrich some of the things you're learning about. We actually won't do a demo of that today. If you're not comfortable with HTML, then this is definitely something you would pass on to your website developer. But again, it's just good to know, in case you do have any issues with duplicate content. And then just one last point on duplicated content. So we talked about making sure that you don't have duplicate content on your own website, but then that doesn't cover duplicate content on all of the other websites on the web. So there are websites out there called scraper websites where all they do is just take content from good websites, scrape it, and then post it to their own website without changing it. So there are some tools out there. My favorites are Copyscape and SiteLiner, where you can just basically put your website URL in the tool, and it will return to you all of the duplicate content on the web. So this works both ways, right? So this helps you find websites that have duplicated your content. But let's say, maybe someone several years ago just wanted to add some content, so they did some copy and paste. This will also show you websites where you have copied their content. So very important to look at it from both angles. And, if we, before we move on, if we were to look at duplicate content from a real world offline example, it's the same as in school where, I'm sure it's the same in the Philippines as it is here, where your teachers, they want you copying each other's homework. It was just a rule, right? So it's kind of the same idea here. If you have a website, you want to make sure that you have your own content and you're not just copying and pasting from others. And yeah, it's just when everyone plays by the rules, it's just a happier internet.
That's cheating.
So any questions there before we move on? Okay, great. So structured data. So this is something else that's very technical. I'm just going to glance over it this week. But schema markup is special code that you add to your website's HTML to help search engines return more informative results for users. So in many cases, this isn't applicable to websites, but for certain types of companies, it's very helpful. So you can see here a very common example of schema in action is if you're looking, to make travel recommendation or reservations or restaurant reservations, maybe for one of your birthday or one of your friend's birthday or a family member, and you want to take them out to a nice dinner. So you'll look at, let's say we were looking at New York City hotel or New York City restaurant. You're probably seeing these little stars that show up next to the search result. So this is a review schema. It's a type of schema markup. And pretty much this tells you the reviews and the number of reviews and the rating that particular company has. So obviously this kind of pops out in the search result, and it'll help with something that's called your click-through rate. So your click-through rate is, let's say for Interrupt Media, that website, your website comes up 100 times a day from different phrases that people search for in Google. And of those 100 times, there are actually 10 clicks that people actually searching for a phrase and they are actually clicking to Interrupt Media's website. So that gives you a click-through rate of 10%. So it's pretty much the number of clicks over the number of impressions. And the higher the click-through rate is for your website, the better signal that it is a very good website. You're doing something right there. And schema markup, having the different stars in your search result, that helps your click-through rate. So is everyone clear on that part?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And that's something, the click-through rate, that's something we're going to touch on over the next few weeks. Website speed, very important technical area to look at for your website. And so these are just some stats to consider. So a recent poll was done, 50% of internet users expect a site to load within 2 seconds or less. So very fast, right? And this is even faster when they're using their cell phone, their iPhone or Android or whatever mobile phone they're using. Another stat here. So for every additional second of load time, your website conversions drop by 50%. So you can think about that. Let's say for Interrupt Media, after the 2 second mark, for each additional second that the website takes to load, the likelihood of someone calling your team or submitting a consultation request, that drops by 50%. So it's not only important for SEO and the technical performance of your website, but it's also very important for your bottom line. It can have an impact on your company's revenue. So when your website is fast, it can also help Google crawl more pages on your website and index them faster. So again, remember Google crawling, that's just Google's robots, spiders, crawling your website, reviewing your website, and adding them to the index, the Google index. And so when you have a quickly loading website, then Google can get through more pages faster. And then some important factors to look at when reviewing your site speed is time to first byte. So how much time does it take for the first element to load on your page? The total download time, so how long does it take for all of the elements to download on your page? That includes images, that includes videos, and any other type of rich media that you may be using. And then full render time. And so full render time is, if I was looking on my laptop or if you're looking on your mobile phone, how long does it take for everything to be displayed on your device? And so I actually did a quick test for the Interrupt Media website. And I'm sorry, Interrupt Media, you guys are the guinea pig today. So this is a free tool I use. It's called GTmetrix. So the website is gtmetrix.com. And basically, I ran a performance report for Interrupt Media. And you have really good scores. You have an A for page speed score, and then a B for Y slow score. It's just a different rating system. But one thing I see as an area of opportunity is the fully load time. So right now that's at 4.5 seconds, and as we just went over, ideally that would be at 2 to 3 seconds. So there is some area for improvement there. And now if you scroll down a little bit further here, you'll see here leverage browser caching. So this is actually, I believe you all are using a WordPress website. This is something very easy to resolve with. This is something that we use for to basically make the website load faster. So pretty much browser caching, all of that is, so the first time you go to a website, you're going to, first time you go to a website, it's going to load everything for the first time. So it might take a little bit longer for everything to load. But with each visit to that website, it should get faster because all of those things are already in your browser's memory. And so that's browser caching is just a special feature you can add to your website to improve that. So the Interrupt Media site actually has a grade of C. And usually you can just add a plugin to the website, WordPress plugin to the website, and that would improve this. So for your waterfall, so this is really, this is really probably something that your developer would be more interested in. But this tells you, kind of give you a visual representation on the different elements that load on your website and how long they're loading relative to each other. So you can see here, the long bar, 1.07 seconds, that's this gallery. So I'm not sure what that image file is, but it is taking, compared to everything else, it's taking a longer time to load. So that's something that you would probably pass to your developer and say, hey, how can we optimize this particular image to load faster? And so that's how I would use this tool when looking at improving your website speed. And so, yeah, that's pretty much everything on site speed. Any questions on that part? Okay. So let's go back to presentation mode. So mobile first, very important, another very important technical area to look at. Desktop search results, when I say desktop, I mean search results that come up on your desktop or laptop are based on how Google and other search engines see the mobile version of your website. So a big thing in SEO and just website, building good websites is making sure that your website looks good on a mobile phone. Because as you know, everyone is using their phones to use it for the internet these days. So you want to make sure that it's very usable and easy to use on your mobile phone. So some best practices, and then these are things that are good to know, but probably would be best for a website developer to manage hands-on. But some best practices include optimizing for your mobile site speed and performance. So the test that we just ran, but making sure that your website is also loading quickly on a mobile phone. Include the same content on both your desktop and mobile sites, which usually, is the default, but sometimes people might have a what's called a mobile-friendly website. But usually if you're just building a website, it's going to have the same content. User experience first. So make sure that every element on that website is easy to use. So clickable phone numbers, so someone can call you if they are interested in your services. Easy to navigate with your fingers, so making sure that there's enough spacing in between your different elements on your website. Short lead forms. So when you're asking for information, so keep it short and simple. So their name, their email, and their phone number are usually the go-to options there. And easily readable text. So you shouldn't need a magnifying glass to read things on your website. And if you're not sure about that, look at what some of the big websites are doing, like Facebook, like Twitter, YouTube. Any websites that are popular in your location, they're probably going to be well optimized for user experience. And then I included these other 2 bullet points here, accelerated mobile pages and progressive web apps. Unless you have a very large website with thousands of pages, these probably aren't needed, but just wanted to include those here because those are something that companies commonly use for mobile optimization. Now, again, I have a short demo here. Let's see here. So there's a free tool from Google called the Mobile Friendly Test. Just Google Mobile Friendly Test and it'll come right up. And again, I put in the Interrupt Media website. So it's coming back as mobile friendly. You can kind of see a little preview here on this side of the screen. But this is just kind of a minimum. So it's great that it's mobile friendly, but that doesn't really tell you how easy it is to use. So for that, I use another tool called Mobi Ready. And you can just Google this, Mobi Ready. The URL is ready.mobi. And you can actually see how your website looks on different devices. So your desktop or laptop, then you have your smartphones, and then, for the dinosaurs who aren't on technology, kind of like the flip phones, so the really old cell phones, that's how it would look. And it'll give you a score, and unfortunately, the interrupt site, it's a 2.24 out of 5, so probably some areas that can be improved, but this really goes into detail on just how you would improve on your mobile usability. So again, the technical piece, I highly recommend that you just partner with the web developer on your team, but you kind of guide this part of it that say, hey, these different things need to be fixed, and just manage progress towards completion of those areas. So any questions there before we move on to on-page SEO? Okay. So on-page SEO simply is any optimization techniques that are directly implemented on your website. So technical SEO, obviously you're doing work to your website's backend. On-page SEO is more focused on the parts of your website that your users actually see. And pretty much with on-page SEO, the starting point is always understanding your customer, or better yet, understanding the person who is using your website and understanding the keywords and phrases that they would be using to find a website like yours. So this little graphic here is called the search demand curve. And you'll see here, there are 3 types of keywords. You have your fathead keywords, that's your first type. You have your chunky middle keywords, that's the second type. And then you have your long tail keywords, that's the third type. And pretty much you can see here, fathead keywords, there are more websites out there that are targeting these. They do have higher competition and lower conversion rate. So you'll see here at the bottom, let me move this out the way here. You have marketing development program. That would be an example of a fathead keyword for interrupt media. So there are many websites and companies all over the world that are targeting this keyword. Now, if we go into the chunky middle, this is when there's less competition, but your conversion rate is higher. So a chunky middle, an example for interrupt media would be marketing development program for technology companies. So a little more specific about who you're targeting with your marketing development programs. And then now where we get into the long tail, so this is where there's the least competition. And if someone's searching for a long tail keyword, it's more likely that they're know exactly what they want, and they'll be ready to call you or contact your company. So an example of a long tail keyword for interrupt would be marketing development program for multinational technology companies. So very specific, but you can be sure that someone who's searching for something this specific, they're probably ready to implement a marketing program for their company. And so you'll see here also that long tail makes up about 70% of all search queries on Google. And this is search queries everywhere, all over the world. So when you're doing your keyword focus, it's best that you target long tail keywords. See. Okay. And so how do you find good keywords? There are several good keyword research tools out there. These are some of the tools that I find the most useful. Google Suggests, Uber Suggests, Answer the Public, and Keywords Everywhere. And these tools, the great thing, they're all free, or they provide really good information for free. But if you want some premium tools, SEMrush is very popular, and Moz, the website we were looking at before, is also very popular. Now, I'm actually going to do a quick demo of each of these free tools because I think it's very important that you guys see how I would use them. So the first is Google Suggest, and that one is really easy. So basically, I'm sure you all have probably noticed this when you're doing your own searching online. So you see here, I've typed in marketing tips for technology companies. So these are probably a phrase that Interrupt would probably want to target. And you see all of these different suggestions in the drop down here. So this is basically Google Suggests. So based on this phrase that I'm searching for, Google suggests that I also target or look for these phrases. So sometimes these phrases might not be relevant, so that's where you have to kind of go through manually and figure out what's relevant and what's not. But it definitely gives you a great place to start. Now, the other part of Google Suggests is actually at the bottom of the search results here. And sometimes these are going to be the same as the dropdown that we just saw, but there also might be some new phrases here that weren't included. So very important that you just kind of take a look at both to make sure you are being comprehensive in your keyword research. So the second tool that I use, and this is actually a Google Chrome extension. Let's zoom out a bit here. It's called Keywords Everywhere. And basically it's a free extension, and once you install it, you'll see this little box here on the right hand side. And what this tool does, it kind of gives you an average search volume. So this first column here is the average number of people who search for marketing strategy for a software product per month. Cost per click, that's more for advertising, but you can be sure that if someone is spending a lot of money on a particular phrase, then they're probably getting customers and clients from it. So if you're looking at, how can we target a page so that it attracts more ideal clients, ideal customers, I would take a look at the CPC, and that stands for cost per click. And then the final column here is basically the competition. So that's on a scale of 0 to 1, with 1 being the most competitive keyword, but that tells you how difficult it would be to rank for that particular keyword. So when you are just starting on a website, you want to go after lower competition keywords that have a good search volume. So that would be my advice there. And that's the Keywords Everywhere Chrome extension. So make sure that you all download this because we will be using it in future weeks. Now, so those are the first two tools. The third tool that I want to go over is called Ubersuggest. So Ubersuggest is very similar to Google Suggest, but it provides a lot more information. It provides a lot more information. So let's see, if we just marketing for technology companies. So we have you see here the data here. It provides a lot more data than Google Suggest. So you can see the search volume, the SEO difficulty, the paid difficulty, and the cost per click. And it'll even tell you if a keyword is difficult, easy, or hard. So it's actually a fairly new tool. And recently, this is the only tool, or one of the only tools I use for keyword research. And you kind of have a graph here, so you can see historically over time, the search volume for that keyword. And then SERP analysis, we'll go into more detail about this section later on in the course. But a big part of figuring out which keywords to target and how to optimize for them is looking at the websites that are already ranking. So another good idea here, you can look at the Keywords Ideas module. I'm not sure why this is taking so long to load. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it hasn't woke up yet here in the US. But if it was working, basically you'll see a list of recommendations of different keyword variations you can use that are related to marketing for technology companies. So yeah, that's pretty much the demo for Ubersuggest. Insert a public. So this is another tool, and this guy he always kind of makes me laugh, but let's say we were looking for a branded term or just a really simple term like marketing tips. So what this tool basically does, while it loads, I'll explain it. It pretty much goes out to the web and it scrapes all of the questions that people are asking related to that keyword. And this is really important because remember when we were looking at featured snippets? So this little box here. So marketing strategies for tech companies. This is a question that people are probably asking. And you want to make sure when you're producing content, you want to make sure that you optimize it for those particular questions. At the very least, you want to optimize and make sure that you're answering those questions in your content. So going back to answerthepublic.com, so you'll see here, it has a visualization, but you can scroll down here. You can actually see the questions that people are asking. So, marketing copywriting tips, marketing CV tips. Let's see, we go down a little further. Actually, let's go up a bit. Let's see, yeah. So it was actually at the top. So how to email marketing tips, how to marketing tips. What are the best marketing tips? Yeah, it pretty much just collects a lot of different questions from social media, from sites like Yahoo Answers, Quora, and pretty much puts them all in this one dashboard for you. So when you're trying to figure out, let's say you're writing a blog article for Interrupt Media, and the blog article is about marketing tips. These are some of the questions that you want to make sure that you answer in that content, just to make sure that's optimized for SEO. And we'll go into that in content optimization. I believe that's week 4 or maybe week 6. So I won't go into detail now about that. And those are pretty much the keyword tools that I use. Again, recently I've been using mainly Ubersuggest and Answer the Public, but feel free to check those out and see which ones work best for you. Okay, so just moving on. So just kind of some ideas on how to best optimize content on your site. So categorize your keywords. So on your website, you're going to have different topics that you want to write about. So make sure that you categorize your keywords based on those topics, and make sure that you're not mixing and matching. So if you had one blog article about marketing tips for technology companies, have your category keywords there, and then you might have another blog about marketing tips for financial services companies, which will have its own set of keywords. You don't want to mix and match those. So that's number one. Number two, you want to make sure that you are matching the search intent of your website users. So if someone is asking, about marketing tips for their website, you don't want to talk about how to set up a website. That's not really what they're looking for. And we'll go into more detail about this, exactly, how do you figure out the search intent. But really a good rule of thumb, just do a Google search for the phrase that you're targeting with that content and look at what's showing up. So I'll give you a quick example. So let's exit this. So if we were to do a Google search on how to do SEO for your website. So let's just pretend that you were writing a blog article or preparing some content for your website related to this phrase. So you can see here people, they have a checklist, they have videos. Most of it's going to be how-to lists. So when you're preparing content for your website, you might want to consider delivering that content in one of these forms. So either do a checklist or do a how-to video, something like that. But these websites, they're already ranking very well. So you want to make sure that you're pretty much doing what those sites are doing as far as producing your content. Now going back to our presentation, lastly, and this is probably the easiest, make sure your content is readable. So someone doesn't need to be an expert in marketing to be able to understand what your content is about. It should be very simple. And what I use a tool called Hemingway app, and basically just copy and paste your content there. And it should have a grade level of 8 to 9. So someone with just a high school education should be able to read it. Make sure that you add rich media. So, make it look better with images, video, different graphics. Make it more enjoyable to read. And then, the old school test, read it out loud and make sure it makes sense. And that's a big, it's easy, but you'll be surprised. Many website owners don't do these things regularly. Let's go back to presentation mode. And then just another tip, and again, all of these things we're going to go more into detail later on in the course, but make sure that you organize your website so that it makes sense when you're looking at it, from a diagram. So this is just a very simple diagram I did for Interrupt Media. So homepage, that's going to be interruptmedia.com, and then you have your About Us page, and then you have your marketing automation page. You might want to have a page dedicated directly to marketing automation, and then you have your Salesforce page. And then let's say you were producing blogs for each of these different services. So you want to make sure your blogs, when you write them, they are all linking to the marketing automation page, and that your marketing automation page are linking to those blog topics. And then the same for Salesforce. And this strategy is called siloing, SEO siloing. It's more of an advanced strategy that we'll get into more detail later in the course. But as you work on your test websites, kind of think about, before you just start producing content and putting up pages, how you're going to organize your pages on your website. Content tip 2, use a keyword map to plan content. So a big part of success with SEO and with content is properly planning your content in advance. So knowing the different topics that you're going to write about beforehand, know about the target keyword for that particular page. And I use a tool called a keyword map. It's a simple Excel sheet, and you're going to have your page name, so your title of your article, and your keyword. And you can keep it as simple as that. And pretty much you're going to have your main page, that's called your pillar post, and then you're going to have your supporting pages, which are just regular posts. And I'll actually provide a template in our Google Drive folder. It's going to be in a resources folder, just so you can see an example and look at it on your end. Content tip number 3. Use numbered lists. So we've already talked a bit about featured snippets. So it really helps your chances of being featured in that featured snippet if you're using a numbered list or bulleted list in your content. And this is just not for that featured snippet. It's easier to read, easier for people to read or scan bulleted lists. It makes, it's easier than reading a block of text. So make sure that you're using bulleted lists and numbered lists where possible. Content tip number 4, and this is something that another tip that you might want to inquire the help of your website developer, but use these different sidebar navigation menus for your site's navigation. So for this example, we have this is a financial services company, and you can see here I've linked to, so their main page is Indianapolis Financial Planner, and then here on the side are the different services that they offer. So they offer retirement planning, they offer financial planning specific for doctors, they offer asset management. So linking to each of those sub pages from the main page is really good for navigation and really good for SEO. And that's something that might require some web development experience. So definitely something I would ask your developer to help you with. And then you have your different on-page elements. So we take a blog article and let's look at it in more detail. So you have your page title, you have your headings, you have your images, and you have your meta description. Those are the main on-page elements. Now, starting off your page titles, we want to make sure that you include your keyword, your company name, and avoid templates and add personality. So I'm going to share with you all a list of power words where you want to, where possible, add these to your page title and add these to your meta descriptions. So your page title here for the home page is this little red box. And so right now it says Interrupt Media Home, which is a good start. Your company name is there. But if I were to optimize this for SEO, I would do something like Interrupt Media, insightful marketing for technology companies, or effective marketing for technology companies. And that will kind of bring that title more to life. And 2 tools that I use for figuring out good page titles are the Advanced Marketing Institutes. They have a headline analyzer. So if you just Google these, you'll find them very quickly. And the Cold Schedule Headline Analyzer. And these tools, they'll actually give you a grade based on your heading. So great tools to have in your toolbox. Headings. So when you're looking at SEO and WordPress specifically, you have different heading types. So you have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. Now for SEO, the most important are heading 1 and heading 2. So heading 1, there should only be one of these on each page of your website. And you can think about this as if you were ever writing a paper for school, before you actually started writing, you might do an outline just to kind of better organize your thoughts and make sure that all of your content, it flows smoothly from concept to concept. So it's that same idea when you're looking at a page. So your heading 1 is like the title of your page. So whatever that particular web page is about, that's your title. So we're looking at, we had a marketing automation page on the Interrupt Media website. Your heading 1 would be marketing automation for technology companies. Now, under that heading 1, you would have your heading 2 tags. And kind of going back to the outline example, these would be your main bullet points that you want to target in your content. So, for marketing automation for technology companies, some subtopics that we might want to focus on are social media automation, email automation, and so forth. So these would be your heading 2 titles. And then under that, you would have your heading 3 and heading 4. But, for SEO, it's most important to focus on heading 1 and heading 2. Any questions before we keep going?
For the page title.
Page title?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your question on that one?
Yes. So are you saying that it would be more effective if we use like a tagline right beside the company name instead of, like, for example, our website, instead of home, it would be more effective if you use like your marketing automation, whatever tagline that you would like to use for your website.
Dia, I'm sorry, you were breaking up there a bit for me. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Okay. So are you saying that it would be more effective if we use a tagline right beside the company name? Like for our website, if you search on Google, it will say home. So instead of home, can we use a tagline instead?
Yes. So instead of home, you probably want to use like a tagline or just something that's more appealing to someone you're trying to get to click to your website, for sure. For sure. And then one last thing about page titles, there is a length requirement. So you want to try to make sure that you keep these within 30 to 65 characters. Yeah. So for images, fairly straightforward. This is when you add an image to a page on your website. Your alt tag is going to be a element, and this is really easy in WordPress. It's going to be basically a phrase that you associate with that image. And the reason why alt tags exist, so let's say if I was visually impaired, I couldn't actually see the image, or let's say I had a really slow internet connection where the image wouldn't load quickly, the alt tag will tell me exactly what that image is about or is referring to. So, for example, an alt tag for one of your images on your website that you might want to use is marketing development for technology companies, interrupt media. So kind of the template there is your keyword phrase and then include your company name at the end. And that'll pretty much be a good rule to go by. And let's say that you have multiple images on the same page, then you want to make sure that your keyword is the same each time. So let's say on this particular page you had 2 images. For the first, you would use this alt tag, and then for the second, you would use something like marketing training for high-tech companies or high-tech firms. Something very similar, but it's different. And we're going to go into detail on exactly how do you change this in WordPress. But this is, just for informational purposes today. So other than an alt tag, you actually want to make sure that you save your image file with the keyword in the file name. So kind of going back to this example about marketing development for technology companies, once you're done with any photo editing or downloading that from Google, you want to make sure that you save it as marketing development for technology companies, .jpeg or .png, whatever the file type is. And then lastly, your image display size. So you want to make sure that whatever the image file size is on your computer, that it's that same size once you upload it to your website. So for example, if we were working with an image in Photoshop and it's 500 pixels by 500 pixels, you want to make sure that it's the same size once you upload it to WordPress. If it's not, then your website will actually have to use more resources to display the image as it should be displayed. So it's best that you actually define that image size once you upload it to WordPress. And again, I'll go through exactly how you do this over the next 2 weeks. And how are we on time? So yeah, have about 15 minutes here. So just a few more areas I wanted to cover today. Meta description. So this is a screenshot of the home page for Interrupt Media. And your meta description is this little snippet under the URL. So this does not have a direct impact on your Google ranking, but it can have an indirect impact. So remember when we talked about click-through rate, and for short that's called CTR. If you have a really good meta description, it can entice more people to click onto your website. And so when more people are clicking onto your website, that shows that it's more popular and that Google is going to reward your website with better rankings. But the opposite is true as well. So let's say your meta description sucks. It's just not very good. Then in that case, then that could discourage people from clicking onto your website. So you want to make sure that your meta description is very good. And so similar to page titles, your meta description should also be within a certain length. So it should be between 70 and 156 characters. And when it's too long, as you see here, it'll cut off. So unfortunately, the meta description now for your homepage is: the Interrupt Media team helped us accelerate our demand gen pipeline into monthly seven-figure pipeline by building a marketing automation infrastructure. We ... So it doesn't complete the dot there. So you want to make sure we go back and make sure that it's within that 70 to 156 character limit. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. So no, that's actually the end of today's session, or end of the content. So any questions about anything that we covered today? Don't be shy. No questions? Okay. So for the first week, these are the things I want you to focus on for your homework. So mostly it's going to be installing some software, running a check on your website with GTmetrix. And I just want you to look at it just to make sure that you kind of understand what's going on there. And if you have any questions, you can ask them. Number 4, Moz Toolbar. This is a Chrome extension. It's free, so make sure that you install it there in your Chrome browsers. Number 5, I'm sure Interrupt Media has Google Analytics installed, but make sure you have access to it so that you can start looking at it. This is something that we're going to be referring to in future weeks, but just want to make sure you have access to some Google Analytics profile. Number 6, submitting your website to Google Search Console. Number 7, submitting your emails. So this is actually for you, Dia. I want everyone to send their emails to you, and then you just share them with me, because I want to make sure we have communication to everyone on our Slack channel. And part of this course, obviously we're doing these sessions each week, but I want to make sure that we have good communication in between the sessions in case you have any questions, in case there's anything I can help with. And for some of these tools, I'm going to be making ad hoc videos. So, if you're not sure how to do something, I'll just create a quick video and I'll share it there in the Slack. So, Dia, make sure you get everyone's emails and send those over to me. And then finally, I want you, on the point I mentioned about enrichment, I want you to subscribe to different thought leaders in the SEO space. And so on this next slide here, I provided a few, and I'll share some once we have Slack set up. I'll share those, but If you just did a Google search for each of these people or companies, their website will come right up, and you can subscribe to their email list, and they all put out really good content related to SEO. Now, so that's number 4. So number 3, again, send your emails to Dia. Number 2, and Dia, this is a question for you. As I understand, Ben wanted everyone to have their own kind of like test website. Is that something that we have set up for everyone?
Um, are you saying that we need to create our own personal website?
Right, right. Yeah, just from my chat with Ben, that's, as far as learning like hands-on, that would be a good way for you all to learn hands-on. If not, we can coordinate with Ben. I just wasn't sure, was that something that you already have set up? Okay. So yeah, we'll reach out to Ben. And then number 3, make sure that you have access to the Google Drive folder. That's because that's where we are going to be. That's where we're going to be uploading all the video files. So we're recording each of these sessions. The recordings will be there. The PowerPoint will also be there, and any other resources will be added to that Google Drive folder from week to week. So, Dia, I guess that's for you. Just make sure that everyone has access to that folder.
Okay.
Okay. And so that brings me to the end of the session. So before we end it for today, I just want to make sure no one had questions about the homework or any of the housekeeping items. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think that was a good first session. If you all have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening.
And good day. Bye.
Bye.